Hello there folks, back again for another video. In the last video that we did for the channel, we had a look through the rules manual for the game, for the Middle-earth strategy battle game. And I thought in this one we could have a little bit of a look at the Armies of books, and sort of how they've kind of updated the way that you build armies now when it comes to the Middle-earth strategy battle game. Now I have obviously the Armies of the Lord of the Rings and the Armies of the Hobbit. I'm going to be mostly focusing on the Lord of the Rings book for the moment because that's kind of the one that I play the most. And it kind of covers all the sort of general terms and when it comes to the kind of game and how it works and that kind of thing, just by looking through this one. But if you do want me to have a quick flick through the Armies of the Hobbit book as well and kind of give you an idea of what kind of armies they've got set up for that one, please let me know in the comments and I'll just come back and do another one based on that book in a little bit more detail. But this is kind of just going to be an overview of my thoughts of the Armies of the Lord of the Rings book and kind of what I think about the changes that they've made to the game with the new edition of it. So it works in a similar fashion to previous books in the in last edition. So you have all of your various profiles listed in one massive tome for both good and evil. Alongside that, you also have the sort of army lists for those as well, which we'll go into a little bit more detail on when we get stuck into that. But essentially, it'd be a good idea to just flick through and kind of give you an idea of what's inside this this tome. So they've kind of broken things down into the categories that you'd expect. A few characters have gone the way of the dodo. All will appear in the Armies of Middle-earth book. I think that's what it's called, which will be coming out in the future. But essentially, it all boils down to the same kind of thing that you'd expect from previous editions of the game. You still have all the characters listed. You still have all the famous characters listed that existed in the films, I should say, is the most important thing. So if they have appeared on screen in a Peter Jackson movie in some fashion, they are included in this book. You'll see that there are some notable omissions from the collection, which is a little bit of a shame. So, for example, if we go to, we get to this bit here, we have Bilbo, we have Lobelia, we have Maggot, Rosie Cotton, and things like that. But then we miss out quite a few of the other hobbits that were released by Games Workshop and through Forge World and stuff like that, which is a bit of a shame. But you'll see why in a little moment. And again, they're all broken down, as we talked about in the previous video, with their standard stat lines alongside their special rules that you reference in the other book. There's also a few tweaks and changes here and there. So Birchseed is now a character, and then Beachbone has sort of like sort of changed, which is interesting. Birchseed, yes. Oh well, there we go. Not Quick Beam, but there we go. We also have a few additions from the likes of the War of the Rohirrim as well, fitting into this one. One of the most important things I wanted to get to straight away is that a lot of people have talked about the idea that the Armies books. Actually, let's go straight to the army list, shall we? Right. So the army lists that they've added into the new game are essentially the way that you build a force now. So, as we said in the previous video, when you build a warband, you choose a character and then you apply followers to them. In the case of the Fellowship are always a single warband in this case. And you will decide a points value that you're going to be playing a game at. Maybe it's 400, 600, 800, whichever one you want to go for. And then you'll get to pick characters from your list. So normally you would potentially have alliances, or you would have a Rohan list that maybe you threw some Ents into, or some Eagles and all that kind of thing, or you just played Rohan and you had access to everything that existed for Rohan. That is not the case necessarily now, because the way that they've kind of reworked things with this is that they've kind of matched it to moments from the films, but also thematic Legendary Legion style affairs. So if we go to Road to Helm's Deep, for example, this is a Rohan force, but it doesn't give you access to everything from Rohan. It gives you Theoden and Hamar and Gamling, but it doesn't give you all the other characters that you expect from building a Rohan list. You don't get Eowyn, for example. Instead, you get access to Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, alongside the likes of the Riders Rohan and all that kind of stuff. The benefit to that is that while you may lose out on the breadth of options for that force, you get the additional special rules that are tied to that, just like a Legendary Legion from the previous edition of the game. There are exceptions to that, where, for example, the Kingdom of Rohan brings together pretty much everything you could ever want for running a Rohan force. So any of the larger armies for the game, so Mordor, Minas Tirith, Rohan, and that kind of stuff, they all still have fairly extensive army lists that allow you to pick and choose whatever you want. The benefit is that you just get the additional special rules. I mean, for example, you could do a Defenders of Helm's Deep list, which again is very Rohan in its focus, but it also has the addition of the Galadriel Warriors, Aldor and Haleth, Haldir, alongside the members of the Fellowship with there that like Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli at the same time. So they've really gone through and kind of tried to make this thematically appealing to people diving into playing the game in the first place. Now, on the one hand, a lot of people have said that this is limiting, and to a degree, I would say that that's true. I do think that inherently it limits you on the kind of armies that you can build. You're no longer able to build what if forces for official events anymore. So you can't be like, what if the Rangers arrived in Rohan and helped Theoden defend Edoras or something like that. You can't do that anymore if you're going to be playing official tournaments. But the opposite to that, I think, is that this nails down the thematic element that a lot of people were playing in their games anyway. A lot of people were like, I want to play Helm's Deep, so I'm going to make an army based around that. So rather than then having to negotiate, the intricacies of the alliance and all that kind of thing in order to make your Haldir fit in with, your Rohan forces and all that kind of thing, you can instead just pick that list and play that list, as you can see there. And it comes with those bonus special rules, as we looked at the bottom anyway. Now, obviously, as I said, to a degree, I can understand why people would find this limiting. I think they're going to be expanding this with a lot more stuff in the future, so I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about it. But I just want to flick back to this bit of the book, because yes, they have limited the kind of things that you can take in your armies for match play. But if you just look at this, well, all the points are here anyway. 45 points for a Captain of Rohan, 6 points for a Warrior of Rohan, with associated points for all of their bits and bobs, right? So even though this exists, which tells you how to build an official army, there is absolutely nothing stopping you just picking and choosing what you want from the various profiles here and just building the army that you want. If you want Boromir to be fighting in Rohan, well, do it. Just pay how many points? Just pay the 95 points. Find out what kind of hero he is. Where's his thing? Where does it tell you what he is? Never mind. Just find, the hero that he is. I suppose that's the difference, I guess. And just throw him into your games, playing alongside Rohan. I suppose the difference would be that when it comes to the army lists, as we just pointed out here, it doesn't break down who is a legendary hero, who's a valor, and who's a fortitude like it does in the army list. But you could use your common sense in order to play that. So I think if you were going to be setting this up to play the game with, for example, local clubs or just playing it with friends, there is nothing stopping you just diving in and doing that kind of thing, even though it doesn't say what kind of level of hero they are in the profiles, which, it's much of a muchness, I think. I'm sure people will have differing opinions on that. And as I just pointed out to myself, I suppose, it doesn't have the hero level that each of them are, but you can kind of work it out for yourself as you're playing these. Anyway, they've covered all the kind of bases that you'd expect. So you have your elves, in here you have your Numenorians, alongside your sort of classic Minas Tirith soldiers as well. And all the stuff you'd expect, including variations of the characters for when they were taking part in different battles throughout Middle-earth. I also like that they've added in the stuff for War of the Rohirrim. So if we go to that, we have Helm Hammerhand there, who's hopefully going to be getting himself a new plastic model in the future. That'd be really fun. Or maybe they'll just use the old Forge World one. We have Haleth and Hammer. We have Hera, we got a miniature for. Can't wait to see the miniature for Olwyn. Maybe she's going to be throwing her shield. That'd be really cool. You've got Leaf and Freyalaf as well. So these are all going to be getting miniatures in the future. They just haven't got them pictured in the book, alongside the Wraith of the Hornburg and the Bride of Death from the end of the film. So it's nice to see those in there. I think for Evil, we also got some really nice bits and pieces for War of the Rohirrim as well. So you've got plenty to choose from on that front too. But if we just flick through to the Evil side as well, just have a look at that. God, there's so many armor lists. And you can see there's loads, like Eagles, Realms of Men, Fangorn, if you wanted to make a Ent theme list, and then you just choose special rules to try to decide what kind of tree they are, which is cool. Lothlorien, The Last Alliance, Rivendell, Lindon, Numenor, the Men of the West, so that final bit, outside the Black Gates, the Defenders of the Pelennor. There's lots of options in here for you, and they just come with the special rules, which is always a bonus. On the Evil side of things, this is where I think some people maybe do have their complaints about the new way that they're doing things. Is that Evil seems like it may have got a little bit more of a raw deal. I'm not necessarily sure on that. I tend to play mostly good armies, which is, I'm sure I'll find out as we dive deeper into this whether or not it's going to work. But essentially, the kind of armies that I used to play are still presented here in the books. I've still got the option to run my Mordor-style orc armies. I can still run Isengard, alongside Uruk scouts and all that kind of stuff as well. In fact, let's go straight to the armor list, because this is where the meat of the options lies. So you've still got Barad-dûr there, so that's going to be your sort of classic force led by good old Dark Lord Sauron. But Sauron's not going to be able to pop up in every force nowadays, which is a fantastic thing. You have the Black Riders there, so this is going to be those as they were hunting for the hobbits across Middle-earth. The Wraiths on Wings, which is those wraiths swooping around on the battlefield, hoping to hunt down Gollum and the rest of the hobbits. Well, Frodo and Sam anyway, and again, thematically designed. The Army of Gothmog, so the one that ransacked Osgiliath. The Legions of Mordor, which is your kind of overall Mordor army list. Minas Morgul, which goes off a little bit in a different direction, focus more on the Witch King. Cirith Ungol, so if you wanted to play around with Gorbag and Shagrat alongside Shelob, which is cool. So a nice little force there for you to try and play around with. The Black Gates, so again, that final meeting between the forces of good and evil. The Army of the White Hand, so this is your sort of general force for Isengard, which comes with wild men, Isengard orcs, Isengard wargs, scouts, so a pretty handy one there, although not, importantly, not Uruk-hai in armour, which is an interesting one there. Lurtz's Scouts, so again, scout-themed warband there. Can't throw the armoured fellows in that one either. Ugluk has options for scouts alongside orcs again as well, this is the kind of army that I used to run, which is the scouts one. I really quite enjoyed playing that one. The Wolves of Isengard, which is your wargs. The Muster of Isengard, which is where you get your actual Uruk-hai warriors, although Saruman's there as well. The Assault on Helm's Deep, which is solely focused on Uruk-hai, which is the Uruk-hai captain alongside all those, and then you have this really nice sort of collection of special rules there, including the update on the breakpoint, which is 66% rather than that. And the captain increases his attacks and wounds by 3. Oh, lovely job, Lee. Really want to make that army now. The Usurpers of Edoras, which is the army from War of the Rohirrim. The Besiegers of the Hornburg. And then the Depths of Moria, which is focused around the goblins, where again they've removed a lot of the stuff that was sort of extra to the goblins to kind of refocus it a little bit. Still led by the Balrog. And then you've got the Moria Orc Captain alongside all your standard stuff. Harad is still in here, although much reduced. The Corsair fleets are still in there as well. And that kind of caps things off. So a lot of the additional evil stuff like Canned and stuff like that has all been removed from evil. But otherwise, there's plenty of options there for those people who want to make thematic forces based on the movies, which is no bad thing. And since we've had a look through the evil army list, maybe we should actually look through the good ones, because it was always nice looking through that and seeing what they've got. So, standard one there, the Fellowship. I know I'm going back and forth, but whatever. Standard one for the Fellowship there, with all the Fellowship characters. The Shire, which has been much reduced, as seems fitting. No Rangers, alas, in the Shire, which is a bit of an issue. But maybe Armies of Middle-earth will come and bring those into the action. You've still got Gandalf leading the way for that one. The Road to Rivendell. So this is Aragorn alongside the Frodo, Samwise, Arwen, and all the other characters alongside Barlim and Butterbur, which is interesting. The Breaking of the Fellowship, which comes with this is their kind of, I think this is their dash down from the mountains. Why are the Lothlorien warriors in there? That's an interesting one. I suppose they kind of do it so that they're kind of watching over them as they go about their business. Interesting. Okay. The Kingdom of Rohan, so it's your kind of classic Rohan force. The Road to Helm's Deep, so that's the Warg attack. Defenders of Helm's Deep, defending Helm's Deep. The Ride Out, so the muster where they rode down the causeway to attack the Uruk-hai. The Riders of Eomer, riding over the top of the mountains to charge down towards the enemy. The Riders of Theoden, so charging into battle. The Army of Edoras from War of the Rohirrim, so you have the Helm Hammerhand leading Haleth, Hammer and Freyleth, alongside Hera, Olwen and Leif, and all the rest of the Rohan forces, and the Defenders of the Hornburg from the end of War of the Rohirrim. You have Minas Tirith, so that's your kind of standard list for them now, with Eorlas, Faramir, Boromir, and Denethor in that one. The Garrison of Ithilien, if you wanted to make a bit more of a Faramir-themed force, which also gets access to Frodo and Samwise, which is a nice bonus. The Reclamation of Osgiliath, the ill-fated ride back towards Osgiliath there. The defense of defense of Minas Tirith, atop the walls, which is quite good. Send these foul creatures into the abyss. Return to your posts. Lots of quotes. The Return of the King, so Aragorn leaping off the side of the boat to support the forces of Minas Tirith and Rohan, and then by extension the Defenders of the Pelennor, which is your big kind of like cinematic endgame army there. Men of the West, which is the one we looked at from the Black Gates. Numenor, so if you want to play at the beginning of the movie, you've got that option there. Hopefully they come back and do some updates for that, because I'd love to see plastic Warriors of Numenor in more than just the kind of standard swordsman. I want these guys done in plastic and these guys done in plastic. They're not going to do that, but there we go. Wishful thinking. One for Lindon there. One for Rivendell. The Armies of the Last Alliance, which is Numenor and Rivendell together. Lothlorien, Fangorn, with its really nice rules for running the Ents. The Eagles, so you can obviously have a look at these and pause the video and have a look at them in more detail. And then finally the Realms of Men there as well. So yeah, as I said, like I think in general, they've done a seriously good job of kind of refining and updating the list so that they kind of make thematic sense. Yes, it's a bit of a shame that it's not as wide-ranging as it used to be when it comes to building armies. Like my friend has an army of trolls, and I was trying to work out if he could still run a troll army with a troll captain. And it might be the case that he has to go for like the Mordor army. We'll have to have a look actually. Let's flick back to that. Legions of Mordor. Heroes of Valor. Easterlings, Warmonks, Morannons. No, I mean Mordor trolls are in there, but they're counted as warriors. There's no leader figures from that side. Maybe there is for Minas Morgul, perhaps. I guess not. Angmar had a free set of rules that updated for this, which might allow for them to be used. Although I think they're probably going to end up in Armies of Middle-earth, which will be coming out in the near future. We'll have to wait and see, I suppose, on that one. But for now, I guess my friend will have to just make do with making it up on the fly, like we do normally when we play Lord of the Rings. But in general, I don't think it's necessarily a massively bad thing that they've done to the game with the Armies of books now. I mean, I think it was... They were always going to have to do something to kind of match it in with what, you know, the license holders were looking to do. And it also means that they can kind of break down the amount of miniatures that they have to provide a little bit to make space for new ones, which is always handy, of course, as well. Everybody likes new miniatures. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on the... Look at the great eye looking at this book. Let me know what you think of the Armies of books and how they've sort of laid them out. Make sure to dive into the comments and tell me all your thoughts. Like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And as a reminder, if you want me to look through the army lists for The Hobbit, please make sure to let me know in the comments and I'll come back and do a video on that one. But as I say, I tend to play Lord of the Rings, period, more than The Hobbit. But it'd be nice to have a look through that anyway, just because I have the book. So let me know your thoughts on that one. But yeah, all in all, I don't think it's as catastrophic as people have made it out to be. And you could always just make it up using stuff that you knew from previous editions of the game when it came to whether someone is a hero of valor, legend, or fortitude and in between. Yeah, before I waffle on too much, drop your thoughts down below in the comments, and we'll be back in the future for another video on Middle-earth and exploring more of that alongside all the other games that I enjoy covering. So yes, let me know in the comments down below what you think, and we'll be back with another video very, very soon. Bye for now.